Interfacing. You in your kit have two different types of interfacing samples to complete for this sample assignment. One set will be actually a non-fusible style, and this is the ones that we will need to hand-based. I'll set that aside and save it for another video. This one, though, is a sample that is a fusible type of interfacing, and you can feel that interfacing, and on the fusible side it's an adhesive glue. It's kind of a rough, bumpy sort of surface, and that is the side you want to go down against your fabric to be able to bond together, and it's the heat from an iron that actually activates that bonding glue adhesive and makes the two come together. Now, when working with any kind of interfacing, in order to, one, eliminate bulk in your seam allowances, you always trim the interfacing piece down about 1/4 of an inch in to have less bulk. And second, especially when you're using fusible interfacing, you don't want edges hanging out over the sides, because when you do, you wind up actually leaving residue on your ironing board. This is a student's used ironing board, and you can see many of them forget to trim their interfacing down. And so a lot of that is left, and what happens is when somebody else comes along, they get that stuck to the right side of their fabric when they go to iron at the pressing table. Now, all right, here I am actually trimming away 1/4 inch of my seam interfacing. And I just do that kind of quickly. You can do this even prior to coming to the ironing table. And then the last one here. Okay. Ooh. Then you want to make sure that you kind of have it centered there on that piece. Double check that you have the adhesive side down to the back of the fabric. And then I tend to always want to use a press cloth, some sort of fabric, either a lightweight muslin. Personally, I prefer an organza silk. It takes a pretty good hot iron, but what it allows me to do is see through the fabric so I can see what I'm doing. That way I know none of this has scooched over and caused a wrinkle or anything underneath the press cloth. And then with an iron at the correct setting for that product, sorry, need to dial mine down off of a hot cotton setting to probably about a wool setting. When you buy interfacing at the fabric store, especially the fusible kind, will come with a sheet wrapped around the interfacing at the same time that gives you instructions about how to pre-shrink it if you need to, instructions on reminding you to trim pieces down when you get ready to apply that to pattern pieces, as well as your temperature settings. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you overlap your placement of your iron, especially if the pattern piece is larger than the face of the iron. And then it'll give you a good amount of time, as far as about 20 or 30 seconds, that you want to be pressing this to make sure that glue is activated. The other thing is I'm giving it a little bit of pressure. You can't really see that here in the video, but I am pushing downwards to give it that pressure. And then very gently peel this away, because I don't want it to also lift this up. Sometimes that glue may come through some openings, especially in the lighter weight interfacings. And that's why I use the press cloth. I'd rather replace it periodically when it gets all gumped up here, as opposed to ruining the faceplate of my iron. And then that is a fused piece. The interfacing helps give a little bit more stiffness or stability to fabric. It's used in your collars, around necklines and armholes sometimes, around cuffs, down center front shirts that require buttons and buttonholes in waistbands and edges of pockets sometimes as well, to keep the integrity of the fabric pieces from getting stretched out or pulled out of, or distorted or something, pulled out of shape. All right.